This is a public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The zoning ordinance empowers us to hear references from the City Council, petitions from other parties for variances and special uses, and appeals from the decisions of the zoning administrator. We hear testimony from those in attendance and then make formal findings of fact based on the evidence presented, which consists of testimony and exhibits and on our knowledge of the community. We then either make a determination or recommendation to the City Council. Testimony is taken under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence and procedures, we ask that you keep your testimony relevant to your proposal as it relates to the standards contained in the zoning ordinance. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record and tell us your name on the sign-in sheet, but we don't have that today. Each case will be introduced by the staff and a list of documents will be read into the record. Then the applicant will give an explanation of the proposal. After that, those who wish to testify as either proponents or opponents of the case will have the chance to do so. And then the applicant will have a chance to respond. Any case not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next meeting. Melissa, please call the roll.
Chair Cullen.
Present.
Jill Zordi. Max Puchtel.
Present.
Mary McCauley.
Here.
Mirna Arevalo.
Here.
Lisa Deacon. And Kirill Miranchev.
Present.
Rules. Can I have someone make a motion to suspend the rules so we can conduct this meeting digitally?
I move that we suspend the rules so that we can hold a virtual meeting this evening on Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
Are we doing roll call?
Yep.
Oh,
Okay,
Alright.
call the roll.
Chair Cullen.
Aye.
Max Puchtel.
Aye.
Mary McCauley.
Yes.
Mirna Arevalo.
yes.
And Kirill Miranchev.
Aye.
Okay, can I get someone to give me a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 15th, 2020?
A motion that we approve the meeting minutes of 9/20/2020.
Second.
Second? Okay,
Second.
Chair Cullen.
approve.
Max Puchtel.
Approve.
Mary McCauley.
Yes.
Mirna Arevalo.
Approve.
Kirill Miranchev.
Yes.
Okay. So this evening we have two cases in new business. Is the respondent here for 800 Greenwood Street? Is she here, Melissa?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. That's good. Could you read this case into the record, please?
Sorry, I'm a tad slow on things.
It's okay.
800 Greenwood Street. Andrea List, proprietor, submits for a special use for a banquet hall, 800, in the C2 Commercial District, zoning code section 61043. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case.
Thank you. Before we start, I am going to swear everybody in. I'll swear in anyone who plans to give testimony in any of our cases scheduled for tonight. You could raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you will provide in connection with this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Anyone else? Thank you. Okay. Ms. Bliss, would you explain your proposal, please?
Yes, thank you for your time this evening. My special use request comes as a result of the pandemic and the effect it has had on my design business. I'm a longtime Evanstonian. I moved here to attend graduate school at Northwestern in 1982. I went to Medill and I have lived here ever since. I love Evanston. I purchased this building in January 2019 from Richard Brunet Richard occupied this building since the 1970s. He's a master luthier. He makes guitars, and he moved to Barrington, and it went from craftsman to craftsman with me. This building was the home for the Evanston Arts Center, by the way, from 1946 to 66. So this was before Harley Clark. I brought it back to life. I moved in October, and COVID hit in March. I never even had an open house. Because we specialize in creating custom invitations and visual branding for special events, my business has been severely impacted by the pandemic. I'm part of the hospitality industry, and we were among the first to close and will be among the last to open. All my client events have been canceled for 2020, and some postponed until late 2021 and 2022. So the inspiration for this concept came from out of necessity. However, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And I've come up with a way to leverage my very successful business and work within the pandemic to create something new. What I want to do is use my design studio's showrooms and outdoor terrace as a small venue for refined micro events, such as rehearsal dinners, bridal showers, anniversary celebrations, wine tastings, this type of intimate social and business gathering. I will use a preferred list of local catering companies to provide food and beverage for the venue. I've been in this special event industry for 29 years. So as I said earlier, this was actually a natural extension for my business. It had not occurred to me until this situation, but it does make sense. I've designed invitations and visual branding and been a part of events ranging from the Lyric Opera and the Art Institute here in Chicago, the Field Museum. All major cultural institutions in the city are my clients, as well as the Kennedy Center in Washington, DC, the National Symphony Orchestra, Smithsonian. I'm steeped in events. And locally, I work with all the event planners on the North Shore, Gold Coast, all throughout the suburbs. And so I know that it is my community that I'm tapping into and who I consulted with in the development of my plan for my venue. I have a loyal client base on the North Shore and the Gold Coast that I'm going to tap into as the foundation for my clientele. And I'm excited to actually bring this to life. Do you want me to go through the venue operations specifically, or do you want to ask me questions?
We're going to ask you some questions, but if you have some things you want to add to your proposal, please.
Go ahead. Okay, I will. And then of course, I want to just make sure I've allowed for all that. So the way that the venue operations, the number of guests we anticipate would be between 10 and 50 people. All the planners and caterers I've had out here have told me that the sweet spot right now is 20 to 30 people. That's what I anticipate will be used here. I put in the 10 to 50, 10 could be a small event, 50 would be the absolute maximum. The duration of events, again, through consult with others, what I'm told is with a small group of people, you really can't sustain interest beyond 2 to 3 hours. So I've put down 2 to 6 hours because there's an hour on the front, let's say, to get set up, and an hour at the end to clean up, somewhere in that nature. The hours that we are proposing would be luncheons from 11 to 3 and evenings from 5 until midnight. This is, and then outside music until 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 12 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. I would like to, we did some research on this after the DAPR meeting. And so I'd like to ask about that later. I'm wondering if we might extend on the weekends till 1 a.m. to keep me on par with some competition. In terms of,
I'm sorry, Andrea, can I ask you a question real fast?
please, yes.
So I'm familiar with the spot, and for an event venue, I think that it makes a certain amount of sense to be open until 1 a.m. But you know, you're just on the west side of the tracks, right?
Correct.
And so you're that much closer to residential properties.
Yes.
Have you had, and I know that they have all been notified, by the zoning department.
Mhm.
Have you had any feedback whatsoever from neighbors, residential neighbors, about having music? And again, you've indicated that it would mostly be live music, not highly amplified,
Right,
correct?
very much so. It's
I
not,
mean,
it's not
that seems to be your aesthetic. So, I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, I would like you to address what kind of feedback you have gotten from the immediate residential neighbors.
So I have not gotten any immediate feedback from my neighbors. I know we call them the people in the yellow house. It's Vince and his wife. And so I can talk to them. I know them. I haven't seen them since this all came up. I've had another neighbor approach me, a residential neighbor, who said she was going to call in today. Her name is Joyce. I don't know if she's on the call. She was very much in favor of it. There's one other neighbor I know around the corner, a residential neighbor, that I could probably ring his bell and ask. And these are my neighbors. They know me. I have a dog. I've known them for years with the walking the dog. And
Right.
so I know them enough to do it. I just haven't yet, but I would be happy to talk to them. I don't want to bother them. I like them and know them.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, that until 1 a.m., if it were, like Bill Frisell guitar, that's one thing. If it was, rock and roll, that would be another thing.
I
And I think
agree
we
with
would start
you.
hearing from people,
Yeah.
even on a Friday or Saturday, because your proximity to residential units is that much closer.
I agree.
So that would be a concern to me. But, again, I would like to hear from the neighbors themselves.
How should I go about doing that to inform you?
Well,
Is that part of the process that I'd have another?
Everyone was notified, right? And you have in your packet responses from the neighbors in close proximity. Is that correct?
That is correct, including both my immediate neighbors. One is a letter and one we spoke at length on the telephone. And he approved everything after we spoke.
And Melissa, have you had any negative?
So the second neighbor that Miss Liss is referring to, he did contact me to say that he has no concerns after you guys did talk.
Terrific.
And then additionally, we did just receive an emailed in comment of opposition that I would like to read since it just came in. It was from Yvette Meltzer of 1407 Elmwood. And her statement is that she is opposed. She says, living within 500 feet of this venue, we are strongly opposed to this use of this space. In the time of COVID, it is inappropriate to have gatherings of 50 people in a residential neighborhood. We are concerned about people walking through the neighborhood and the spread of COVID. We already are squeezed out of parking as people choose not to pay the parking fees on Greenwood and instead park on Elmwood. Having so many cars coming into the neighborhood is unwelcome. Banquets often serve alcohol and people leaving an event may be loud and unruly. We have no interest in having a banquet hall as a neighbor. Please vote no. Thank you. Those are the only comments that we ever received that are not within the packet.
And further, I do see within the packet that Dapper has asked that you limit the music till 11 o'clock.
They told me it was, the hours that I put were what they had said was, and I don't know if someone is here, they said from 11 till 11 on weekdays until 12 on weekends, and that was consistent with other venues in Evanston.
Right. They also recommended that the parking plan be reviewed within 12 months if complaints were received.
Yes, and I do have a parking plan. So I was asked at the Dapper meeting to enhance my parking plan, which I did. And so I've spoken to VIP Valet, which apparently does a lot of work here in Evanston. They were the ones recommended by my event planning consultants. And so their plan is to park. I have a plan for 10 cars and 25 cars, and obviously could be beyond that. And the parking lot that they selected was First Presbyterian Church on Chicago Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I would say is we could happily have valet parking with depending on the size of the event and require that with people who would have an event here. If I'm at night and on the weekends, it's pretty deserted on Sherman and on Greenwood, this one block where it is a zoned parking. So for a smaller event, the thinking is that
On
they would
weekends,
absorb.
on weekends and evenings, that's correct. I know that there was a kind of a major problem with leapfrog during business hours and parking, just like parking up all of the residential streets at the time. That's no longer a consideration. And your events would, I think, largely take place evenings and weekends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I list daytime because I have to responsibly, I would try to have things available, but from what the research I've done, it would generally be evenings and weekends. During the day, it would be like a luncheon from 12 to 1:30, something like that.
Are you currently in the building doing your interior design business, Ms. Liss?
I am in the building. I do graphic design.
Graphic
So
design.
yes,
Okay.
so I am currently in the building. I'm here right now. And yes.
You don't live there?
No, I don't live there. I live in Evanston, but not here. It's not a residential, it's my workplace. It just looks residential, but it's not. Yeah.
So I have another question that related to something that was in the packet. It's, first of all, I love the idea of activating the courtyard and having that available for outdoor use. The packet had indicated that the previous owner, Mr. Brioni,
Brunet,
I'm sorry,
Brunet.
Brunet, I'm sorry,
Brunet, yeah.
had his dumpsters, kind of sort of in the courtyard, and you were planning to move them to the alley, which is certainly not atypical. That had gotten some feedback of concern. So, but I think that activating that courtyard would be a really wonderful thing. So can you talk a little bit about how you do that? How many people can be accommodated in the courtyard? So will you have like patio heaters there so that if you did have an event of 50 persons, there could be enough social distancing in these odd times?
Okay, yes, I'll answer all those questions. The first thing I'll address is the garbage, the dumpsters.
Mhm.
So Andrew Brown, he thought that that's where the dumpsters were, but that isn't where they were. This came up in the due diligence when I purchased the property. Because I make paper things, I was concerned, where's the garbage? And I
Right,
didn't, I
right.
mean, that was literally one of the first questions that I asked. And as it turns out, because there was none to be found, the Brunets took their garbage home every night. There was no garbage on the property. I contacted Groot, and there is a letter from them in the packet that they also researched. There had not been service to this property for more than 20 years, which is as far back as their system goes, until I set it up. So they also said that, and the reason that the dumpsters ended up where they are is that a field representative came out and looked at the property, and this is where they suggested that it's in line with everyone else. So in fact, we had a good laugh about it, but that is the reality.
And presumably you've contracted with Groot for garbage and recycling.
Yes, exactly. So that's actually a really important point. I'll bring it up in this moment. So I have Groot twice a week, even now, because I don't like garbage. And so I just have kept it up, even though we're not busy. I don't like the smell and all of that. So I called them upon reading the questions from my neighbor. And it turns out Evanston has Groot 6 days a week. So should I become busy, I can have them pick up 6 days a week. So they could pick up the garbage every single day.
Right.
And if there is garbage of that nature, I will happily pick it up. I don't want problems of rodents or smell. Myself, I'm a member of I live here too. It's not like I'm an absentee person. I'm not live, but I work here. I'm here every day. So that addresses that piece. The terrace, the outdoor courtyard, I'm so excited about this. It was always in the plan for my own self to enjoy it with my clients and be able to entertain them there. And in fact, there's a picture in there. I opened up what was a spray booth. It was a dark, dank place. And I put in French doors that lead out to that space that has never been improved in 100 years. It just is a concrete driveway where the coal truck, the coal truck would come in on one side and out the other. And so in terms of the number of people that it can hold, the drawings that we have show that for a sit down, it's about 28 people. And if I open up the gate, I moved the gate to allow for me to park my car there. Richard had the gate all the way to the sidewalk, but if we included the space, maybe we could get another table. So I think, what did she say, 30? We could get a sit down of about 50 people if we use that extended area. I think more comfortably was about 35 people for sit down. And the 50 might be more like a cocktail or a stand,
Sure.
a mingling event. Have I addressed all the things you asked me? Because now
You have. I appreciate that. Thank you.
okay.
Other questions from other members of the board?
I have a question. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, thank you.
I just want to be clear. You're requesting to increase the hours for music to 1 a.m. on the Friday and Saturday, but the condition from Dapper was only referring to amplified outdoor music. So are those two things in conflict or not?
Maybe not. Right? I mean, it was just they had recommended outdoor amplified. Is that right? So I guess I'm not sure what I'm asking, because I think what I'm asking is if there's an event going on and the people wanted to stay till 1 o'clock outside and they had a guitarist or something, can they do that? That's what I'm hoping to be able to do. Is that in conflict? Am I not understanding? Because that could be.
No, I don't think it's necessarily in conflict. I'm just trying to make sure we're all clear on what you're looking for. Is it a burden to put a restraint on music being outdoors past a certain time?
For me, is it a burden? No, I think that was the essence. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Like if your guests wanted to have an event through 1 o'clock, they could, and they could still have music, but just be indoors. Is that too much of a burden?
So like move the party inside, like, by 1 o'clock. I think if I could have what was talked about at the previous meeting up until midnight, I was happy with that. It's just that as we started calling and looking at other places, that's where the question came up of, should we explore with the board, with you guys, if we should be able to have the outside, because they didn't restrict the inside. It was a restriction for noise on the outside space. And so the question is it a firm hard stop at midnight, or is there room to say we could have 1 more hour outside? That's the question.
Could you be outside without the amplified music outside?
I think it was only about amplified. So I guess I'll ask, could there be amplified music outside till 1 a.m. or is that not advised? And then it would just be outside music till midnight, which is what they.
Quite honestly, Andrea, I would say this is going to go to City Council. We're just a recommending body. But quite honestly, I would say that given your proximity to residential properties, you would be better served by limiting your hours to 11 on Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays and Saturdays to midnight. I don't think I would push 1 a.m. at that location. I mean, I think that for my purposes, my recommendation would be to midnight, because that's what was Dapper's call. And I think that everyone would be comfortable with that. And so if typically if you have an event and you do have the late stayers, to move the party inside is not for the last hour.
Right.
So that's my recommendation to you, and that's.
I
where
like
I
your
would go here.
recommendation. Can we go with your recommendation? I like to think ahead to the next step. And so given that that would be more acceptable, let's just keep it like that.
Right.
I'm good with that. Are you all good with that as well?
Okay. Any other board member have comment before we close the record and let public comment? Myrna, Carol? No? Okay, then officially, let's close the record and ask if there's anyone else on this call who would like to speak to this proposal.
My name is Simmons. I'm on this call, and I'm putting my video on so you can see me.
Can I
Hi,
have your name and address for the record, sir?
David Simmons, Simmons.
Yes.
I'm at 912 Greenwood Street, on the corner of Greenwood and Elmwood, and within 500 feet. I have some of the same concerns that were brought up in the email that was expressed earlier with regard to traffic. I also will bring up if there's catering trash put in an alley for 50 people, that's a lot of potential rodent and insect infestation area in the alley there. Secondly, I think traffic, no matter what the sound is, indoors or outdoors, if the traffic is going on at midnight, it's going to be a lot of people outside just leaving and coming in on the weekends and even into the weeknights. It is a quiet neighborhood and it is residential. And I'm concerned about changing the zoning. No offense to Ms. Liss, I think she's got a great project in mind for the kinds of things she's doing, but I don't think the venue is appropriate, both in terms of the amount of space available, both during a pandemic and even afterwards. And secondly, I don't think the parking, even valet parking, will be appropriate for this venue.
Thank you. Ms. Liss, would you like to respond?
I appreciate Mr. Simmons calling and giving his comments. I'm happy to know his concerns. I think that the garbage pickup first of all, no one that I've spoken to thinks that there will be 50-person events, but that is possible. But I think the 20 to 30 is more likely. Let's say there are 50 people at the event and we have trash for those 50 people. Should it be that type of trash, I would have it picked up every morning. So Groot comes in the morning. I'm assuming that would be the schedule. We would find out, but they would come every day to pick up the trash. In terms of the parking, the valet is going in the opposite direction. They're going to Chicago and Greenwood. So I don't know if that's something that could be directed as well, not to go through the residential when people are leaving, but to go out towards Chicago Avenue. It is zoned for C2. I am in a commercial district, and it is a special use that is on the list of special uses. So I certainly will be a good neighbor and good citizen. I would be the person here as the venue manager. So watching that everything would be done in a proper way. And I would certainly be happy to receive phone calls or feedback if someone is unhappy so that I could take care of it. Those are my responses.
Mr. Simmons, I really appreciate your comments, and that was my concern too, is that the residential neighbors are much closer than they are on the other side of the tracks, where the C commercial zoning becomes much more commercial. But I think that based on the recommendations of Dapper, we will make a condition of allowing Andrea Liss to activate her space and keep it, going, that they do review the parking situation in a year's time. And so if there is a problem, and you as neighbors, if there's a problem, you can call your alderman, you can call the parking department of the city and say, call 311 and say, this has been a problem, or call Andrea Liss and say, Andrea, we found things out of control this particular day. And maybe there will be a one-time thing, but this will be reviewed in a year's time. So if it is problematic for the neighbors, I think that there is the possibility of correction.
Okay, thank you. I was going to make that suggestion to the Zoning Board of Appeals. If there was an approval to take this to the council, that it would have the caveat of some kind of review period to catch it. We don't want to be complaining all the time and then base everything on.
Sure.
And I think to protect Ms. Liz's business interests, she needs to provide a plan to mitigate, both plan for prevention, but also how to resolve things if they do come into being.
Definitely. Well, your feedback's really appreciated.
Very much so. Board Member Macaulay, may I ask you a question? When
Yes.
you said it will be reviewed, as I understand it, the review would be in 12 months for the parking plan. Is that what you were referring to?
Exactly. Not the entire special use. Simply that what Dapper had recommended in the packet, from what I understood, were that they wanted it to be approved. They think it's a great plan, but they did have two recommendations or conditionals. One was that the music be curtailed to those hours, and number two, that the parking situation be reviewed in 12 months to make sure that it was not having a negative impact on the neighborhood. That's all.
I'd also like to bring up the music issue. I don't think I was very clear about that, but I think 11 o'clock is late. Dance Evanston has a 10 o'clock curfew, and I'd like to suggest that as an alternative to the 11 o'clock. I think the noise bounces off that levee of the railroad tracks and pushes right into the residential area, and it's going to make an echo, amplified or not. We can hear quite a bit going on if there was something 500 feet away.
I can't go ahead, Chuck.
Hi, so I'm Chuck Wasserberg, and by an odd coincidence, Dave Simmons and I live in the same building. We actually had an exchange of emails about something different. Anyway, hello. And I just wanted to add to his concern about parking. I mean, I'm all for this venue. The reason I got on the call is I was concerned about parking in the neighborhood. So I just wanted to second that concern. And it sounds like, it's being looked into thoroughly, and I'm happy to hear that we can, get in touch if there's an issue with it. And I think in terms of the music, the issue to consider here is this is not actually a music venue where you're going to have music every single night. So concerns about, noise carrying, that's going to be I assume once in a while, but you're not going to have music 5 nights a week, like Space having an outdoor thing or something.
Not at all.
I'm worried about that, yeah. So that's not a major concern of mine, but parking is, yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. Any other comments from the board members? Any other comments from the audience?
Yes, I'm trying to activate, I'm showing how old I am. I'm trying to open my, there I am, hi.
Oh, hey,
Hi.
Vince.
I'm Vince, and I'm on my wife's computer, so she's Heidi, and we're the house that's closest to the proposed venue. And as someone on the board said before, Andrea's business has a very nice aesthetic, and I'm sure she'll carry that over into her business. And I think anything we can do to support a small business, especially in these times, we should. it's how you support your neighbor. My only concern would be, and the concerns have been raised, just music going late into the evening. And I was going to mention that we do have that 10 o'clock limit here in Evanston. And probably this is going to be a lovely venue that people go to for bridal showers and baby showers. And I have a feeling that's probably what it's going to be used for more than anything else. It's not going to be 7 days a week, rock and roll, I turned 17 and let's all play.
No.
I don't think that's what it's going to be. But I would have some concern about the music going past 10. I applaud Andrea for the effort she's going to make about trash, because where she'd have to leave her trash is right next to where I leave my trash. And if she's going to make the effort to have it picked up the next day, that's great. And then it just goes without saying, parking here is just awful, especially since the block that Andrea, where her business is located, only went to paid parking within the past year. And that just pushed more and more people onto this corner of Elmwood and Greenwood. And it's very difficult to find a parking space at times. I don't know, I know Chuck was on here earlier. There he is there, I see it now. I know he lives across the street, and anyone else in the condominium across the street. There's no rhyme or reason when there's parking available or not, but sometimes it just gets really booked up. So I'm glad Andrea has a parking plan. And I'm also happy that we're willing to address it. So I guess my only concern really is the music. Because I know I'd hear it from, I know that when the church has their outdoor concert, or we used to have a family down the street that used to have a front porch band, and we could, if they were, and they were lovely people having a lovely evening till midnight, but you could still hear it significantly. But it sounds like you're putting the proper guidelines in place to address those matters.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to comment?
Can I comment?
You
Well,
can-
I just wanted to say, Vince, in response to your comment, in order to, because seriously, for a lot of weekend venues, if you're in competition with other businesses and you say we have to shut this down, at 10, it puts Andrea in a rather difficult position. I myself was inclined to go with the DAPA recommendations of 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 12 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Maybe it was Monday through or Sunday through Thursdays. Andrea, you might.
Yes, Sunday through Thursday, and just the Friday, Saturday would be considered the weekend.
Right. So, and given the nature of the venue, once again, I think that I just want to know that there is open communication between you, the neighbors, and Ms. Liss in order to address these problems so that they don't mushroom. But I would hate to put like a legal requirement that it end at 10 a.m. because I think that would really sort of lock her business into a non-competitive situation. If it were, once again, a relatively non-amplified, I don't see there being a big rock and roll thing happening at this venue. So I think communication is going to be a big thing, but I would hope that the neighbors could support those parameters simply as parameters. And then if it becomes problematic, I think that that the neighbors can address that and the business owner can address that with the neighbors.
My concern was only for the outdoor music. I mean, if she does something inside, and
Right.
my only concern was the outdoor music. So.
Okay.
And I think I would just like to add, when you're talking about amplified music outdoors, there are different types. And when you're talking about boosting the volume slightly of acoustic music or something, that's not a big deal. I don't think. That's fine. You know, when people, I just want to clear the air because I think when people say amplified, they assume you're going to have truckloads of, you know, equipment and stuff, and that's not the case here, right?
No, it would be more like like electric violin or guitar. I don't see, even the planners have told me they don't think amplified music will be used. It's too small of a group
Right.
of people.
Yeah.
Again, that like what they're trying to, they had to help me get my head around. It's a small group of people. You can't expect more than 2 hours, 2.5, they're going to go.
Yeah.
And there's not going to, because of a small group of people, there's not going to be amplified music because there's not enough people to carry it.
Right.
It'll be oppressive.
Yeah.
So, and Vince, I'm really happy you called in because I've been trying to run into you and I didn't. And I had mentioned you. He's the yellow house that I mentioned earlier. So I'm glad you're here and I want you to be, I don't want to do anything that would make your family unhappy or any of the neighbors that I haven't met yet. I just happen to know Vince because we're right next door, you know, that way.
Well, I think the only thing that makes me happy is, you know, small businesses, a lot of them are disappearing here, and we should support everyone we can. And I'm sure you'll employ people who live in Evanston or have business relationships with people who are providing you with some of your supplies. So that's important. And, you know, I just want this to succeed. I'll also echo, you know, my house is the closest and this is a residential area, but there are ways to work around these things. And as, you know, it's not like you're not trying to put in a casino on the corner.
No. It's out of necessity, which I really appreciate the words that you're saying. I didn't come up with this as the next great idea. I'm trying to survive this pandemic and that my beautiful business that I worked so hard to build for 29 years can keep going.
We agree. Are there any other comment, any other public comment? Anyone else that wants to speak to this? Okay, so if not, we're going to move on to the standards, but I just want final words of approval or disapproval from the board. I think this is great. I agree with Vince. We do need to support as many small businesses as we can and keep them open. And this is a very creative idea in order for you to be able to move forward. So I approve.
Thank you.
Other board members?
I'm also in agreement. I think Andrea has made a big effort to try to accommodate her neighbors, and she's thinking it's thoughtful that she's thinking about her neighbors and everything that is involved in starting this new project. So I'm good with it.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'm
Chris.
in support of the project. It seems a good idea. Concerns are real, but let's keep in mind that the adjacent two properties actually are more commercial than residential. And I know them very well, and I know very well the parking issue. At the end of the day, I was the architect for Leapfrog. So I know all these things, but I think that the parking conflict probably will not occur, especially having in mind the plan that Ms. Liz is providing. Still, I would support the 12-month reevaluation of the parking issue. This is important, and this is something that we should keep. So generally in support of the project, I think it's a good thing in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
I am also in favor of the project. I think Andrea is a very responsible business owner, and I'm eager to see her try this out. And I think the conditions from Dapper are reasonable and prudent. And I'm not too, I think any concerns that may arise, I think Andrea is the kind of business owner that would be thoughtful and cooperative to work it out. So I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Mary?
Sorry, I'm a belated neighbor, lives 3 doors down. 2 doors over from Vince, and we know Andrea, and just a plug for her, she does amazing work if you need invitations and things like that. She actually gave me a tour of the place when she changed it from who I know formerly no one was able to go in there. So I think just having the space, we're very supportive, and all the best to you. Thank you.
Sir, your name and address for the record.
Dan and Gail Clark, 1325 Elmwood, 3 houses in from the corner, 2 houses over from Vince.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
And Board Member McCauley, would you like to comment?
Sure. I think that I am really happy to see somebody, a longtime Evanstonian, be successful in our community, and I'm really happy that you're finding ways to morph your business, Andrea, to stay here and be successful. So yes, thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to move on to the special use standards. Although the staff recommends approval for this project, the responses to the standards below constitute the professional opinion of the planning and zoning staff. Determination whether the standards for special use have been met shall be exclusively afforded to members of this board. For the ZBA to recommend that City Council grant a special use, the ZBA must find the proposed special use A is one of the listed special uses for the zoning district in which the property lies. This standard has been met. Banquet hall is a listed eligible special use within the C2 commercial district. If any board members disagree with any of these findings on the special use standards, please stop me. B, it complies with the purposes and policies of the comprehensive general plan and the zoning ordinance. Staff believes that this standard has been met. The use is compliant with the zoning ordinance and comprehensive general plan. The proposed use promotes the growth and development of a business and commercial area, strengthens Evanston's economic base, and promotes added neighborhood vibrancy. C, does not cause a negative cumulative effect in combination with existing special uses or as a category of land use. Staff believes that this standard has also been met. The proposed use has limited potential to negatively interfere with any proximate residential, commercial, or office uses, and staff believes that the applicant has demonstrated adequate mitigation measures to limit the potential for parking and traffic-related nuisances associated with this use.
I would.
Okay, please.
Can I just throw in that I believe that that standard has been met, but that I do believe that the city reserves the right to review the parking to assure that there is not a negative impact on the neighborhood in the 1-year window.
I agree. And also, whoever makes the motion, please use that as a condition. Okay. D, does not interfere with or diminish the value of the property in the neighborhood. Staff believes that this standard has been met. The proposed use would add to the value and vibrancy of the property, as well as complement the nearby commercial and retail uses. Additionally, the proposed capacity and intimate setting is appropriate for this location. E, is adequately served by public facilities and services. The staff believes that this standard has been met. The building is served by adequate sidewalks, streets, trash collection, on-street parking, and is in close proximity to CTA bus and train service. F, does not cause undue traffic congestion. The staff believes that this standard has been met. The location is well suited for the customers to access by foot or alternative transit options. Furthermore, the proposed use is in close proximity to public transportation. Additionally, staff believes that there is adequate turnover of on-street parking spaces, and the use of a valet service will limit the potential parking and congestion concerns. G, preserves significant historical and architectural resources. That is not applicable. H, preserves significant natural and environmental resources. That also is not applicable. I, complies with all other applicable regulations. Staff believes that this standard has been met. The project complies with all other applicable regulations to move forward with the next steps in the special use process. And with no disagreement, can I have someone please make the motion? We are a recommending body.
I will make a motion. I move that in the case of 20 ZMJV 0058, 800 Greenwood Street, that the zoning board of appeals recommend to city council that they approve this special use with the conditions that the parking impact on the community will be reviewed within a 12-month period, that music at the venue would be, exterior music at the venue would be confined to 11 p.m. Mondays through Thursdays and to 12 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. I should say Sunday through Thursday, and 12 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays. And that this project be completed in accordance with the documents that Ms. List has presented here for our review.
Can I get a second?
Second,
Melissa, will you call the roll?
Tara Cullen,
Agreed.
Max Puchel,
Agreed.
Mary McCauley,
Yes.
Mirna Aravallo,
yes.
and Kirill Miranchev.
Yes.
Ms. Melissa, your proposal passes unanimously, and Melissa will tell you the next steps. Thank you so much for your presentation tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for helping me and for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck, Andrea.
Thank you. Do I go now? Is that-
Yes, you can. Or you
Okay.
can stay and listen to the rest
I'll
of the meeting.
listen.
It's up to
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
So our second new business proposal is for 2909 Colfax Street. Is the respondent in the room? Is the respondent on this call? 2909 Colfax, okay. Melissa, could you read this into our roll?
Scott Walker, architect, applies for major zoning relief to demolish an existing street accessed garage, construct an alley accessible garage, and utilize the abandoned driveway for open off-street parking in the R1 single-family residential district. The applicant requests open off-street parking located in the front yard, 194 feet from the rear yard lot line, where open off-street parking shall be within 30 feet of the rear lot line or alley. Zoning code section 6463B, table 4A18. The Zoning Board of Appeals is the determining body for this case. And as a reminder to the zoning board, due to a fairly recent text amendment, you are now the determining body on this case rather than recommending body like you previously were.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Walker, are you going to make the presentation for this proposal? I think you're muted, Mr. Walker. I can't hear you. Sir,
All right, can you hear me?
now we can hear you, yes.
All right, so I'm also the general contractor for Vicky and James Leiden at 2909 Colfax, and we have put an addition on the rear of the home, mainly due to circumstances for the Leiden family that I'll get to in a second. But yes, the garage is in close proximity right now, the existing garage, to the rear addition that we have done. And therefore, the owners would like to move it to the rear of the property and use the access of the Colfax Alley. The existing driveway we are asking to remain, which is also a shared apron that with our neighbors to the west, the Linewebbers. And so it's not a new curb cut that we're asking for at all, but the Leidens have a family member that is moving into them permanently during these crazy times that we're in right now, and the rooms that we're creating are for a live-in family member versus putting the permanent person into a home, which the family did not want to get into. I understand that's obviously a request that they're making personally, but it also works for the home. So parking next door to be able to get into access for handicap is our most important issue. And the yard and the lot size obviously can still handle the garage moving to the rear, and we could gain yard space back and take out impervious surface. Any questions?
Ms. Lyden, would you like to add to this presentation?
I guess I would just like to add that we currently, as Scott mentioned, we have a shared apron with our neighbors, the Linewebbers, and the driveway has already been there. We also, with the Linewebbers, put gates that line up that go back to the rest of our driveway, so that wouldn't change. So in terms of like anything from the front, it would pretty much look exactly the same as it does now, and the gates would match up. And I mean, we would just love to have, we have a side door that we would love to just pull the car up so that my mom can have easy access into the house, versus parking in the alley and then her having to walk. We have a really, pretty big lot, and versus having her have to either walk or at some point in time with a wheelchair, bring her from the garage to the house. So that's our main purpose for wanting to do this. And that's it. And
I have a question.
the driveway all the way back. I'd prefer to plant trees and, rather than have a driveway go all the way back to the garage. That just doesn't seem, like I said, I'd rather have, landscaping rather than a driveway that just goes all the way back.
So can I ask some questions?
Yeah.
Please.
First of all, this shared front drive with the Linewebbers.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the curb cut extends to two properties? And I apologize. I thought I had looked at the drawings adequately, but apparently I have not. So the curb cut is a curb cut for two homes, not just your home?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. And we had that actually put in about 3 years ago. We got a permit to do that together because they were like, the aprons were so close together that we just thought it would make more sense to make one. So.
Okay. So you and your next door neighbor have a shared curb cut, and then a driveway that goes to presumably the Linewebbers driveway, because I don't think that their property was really there. So is their garage also closer to the front of the house the way your old driveway is, or your old garage is now?
It is. That's the end of their property line, because then their house then is cut off by the house that's on Lincolnwood. Yes.
Okay.
So theirs is set back a little bit more off the gate, the shared, we lined up our gates, and then it's maybe, I don't know, Scott, what do you think, 30 feet?
They have a single car garage at the same setback as the existing Leiden garage. They have so yes, they're at a corner lot where they're adjacent to Lincolnwood. So by removing obviously the Leiden garage, it clears up their property and moves it to the rear as well. So I mean, it's beneficial to them as well.
Well, so I'm not confused. So
Sure.
You're saying that the Linewebbers are going to move their garage to the back as well?
Nope, there's nothing to do. I'm just talking about the Leidens right now. The Linewebbers
Okay.
have nothing to do with this.
Would it be
All right,
helpful?
okay.
Would it be helpful
So if we as the
Second that.
determining body here were to say, you have to remove the curb cut and remove the driveway in order for us to approve the move of the garage to the back of the property, because this is a legal non-conforming, there would still be immediately adjacent to your newly restored lawn, a curb cut to your next door neighbor's garage that is in the front of the lot. Is that correct?
That is correct, Ms. Colley.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Max had questions.
Yeah, so I was wondering if it would be helpful for staff to pull up the attachment number 8 for the aerial map, so it's totally clear.
Or Kate, do you have a photograph of the front of this property? I'm sorry, I don't. I might have one.
It's attachment number 8 in the packet.
Can we pull it up, Melissa or Kate?
I can't do a screen share if anyone else can.
I can, just give me a second to try to pull it up. I don't have to pack it up.
I think while you're pulling it up, another thing to add is, there are a few other homes on our street that have they have a driveway that either ends like at their house or that ends at a gate. And I mean, if the concern is the aesthetics, or I'm not sure what it is, but there are definitely other homes in our neighborhood that have the same setup that we're looking for. And
Well, what has been proposed, Vicky, is that the city, oh, there we have it.
Yes, I see it.
We're getting that screenshot.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Just to clarify, people, the Leiden's house is the one on the right, the gray stucco,
Uh-huh.
and the adjacent property to the west, which we're calling the Line Webbers, which will stay existing. No change there. So this is a monster apron.
Right. Well, but it is a monster apron, and with all due respect, the whole point of the zoning ordinance is that when legal nonconformings come up and we have the opportunity to take out monster driveways and curb cuts in residential neighborhoods, we would like to do that.
Correct.
So,
but, one of our impacts that I've talked with Vicky and with the zoning department is we could eliminate the apron, and we actually could move the garage to the back. We have the lot line to run all the way to the back. And our argument is we don't want a driveway all the way to the back. We have the lot coverage to do this.
Mhm.
And we would like to eliminate the driveway from the house proper all the way to the rear of the garage. That's
Well,
what we're really trying to do.
right. So the other concern that has been raised is that there has been that spot checks of this particular driveway and curb cut have shown that it has obstructed the pedestrian walkway. So can you respond to that?
Wait,
I'm not following your request.
Well, in the Dapper notes, they said that, of course, one of the reasons that these curb cuts and front property parking spaces have been discouraged is that they obstruct pedestrian walkways. In other words, that cars pull into the driveway, they pull up to the end of the parkable space. They then, particularly maybe during Northwestern games or whatever, they obstruct the sidewalk. And that they have seen in their spot photos of this particular property that has in fact been the case on occasion, if I understood the packet correctly. So again, response to that?
I guess I would say, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not taking the driveway out, and I'm not going to take out the curb. I'm not sure what someone's talking about, because generally speaking.
I think she's saying, Vicky, that people are parking over the sidewalk.
The sidewalk.
Right. I guess I'm not sure that I know that happens. I don't know how to respond to that.
During this whole construction process that we're into the first permit here, we have avoided using this front, and I can tell you the Leidens park either there, or we ask them to move if we have a delivery coming, but I haven't seen it in my 4 months really dealing with this and
well, there are some photographs.
There's a photograph right there.
Right.
Yeah, there's some photographs right there of a car obstructing the pedestrian walkway. I don't know where that came from, but
yeah.
Anyway, that's what Dapper has been saying is problematic with this.
Okay.
And that it is not, again, they don't want cars parked in front of houses. They don't want the front of houses to be parking lots. There are some legal nonconformings, but where you have the opportunity to not have a legal nonconforming, when there is substantial construction, that's when you correct the mistake. That's the premise here.
Understood.
Okay.
Any comment from the architects?
I think I will confer with the Leidens after this process goes through, but I am informally noted that from the zoning that we can build a driveway all the way back to a rear garage. We have the lot coverage. So we've only gone through this process because we were informed that we paid a fee. We might as well go through the process.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why is this portion of the project being permitted separately from the permit for the addition?
We initially started with the garage in the back, and we were informed by the zoning department that you would have to go through this variance to get the garage approved in the back, and that would cause us a delay in construction. And where I am trying to expedite the process of getting the Leidens family back into this home so they can deal with their existing situation. So we eliminated the rear garage, and through conversations with zoning, we've had loose conversations that you can just go for the variance. So we're going for the variance. I guess if we lose the variance, the Leidens have the choice of saying, we'll do the 200-foot driveway to the back, and it's legal according to zoning rules, which is what we're trying to avoid, putting in that much asphalt.
Melissa, can you clarify the parameters here? So in fact, you can the zoning board, or rather can the zoning department decline to allow them to build their garage on the back of their lot if they don't remove their curb cuts, or they have, by right, they can keep their curb cut and the driveway and move their garage to the rear of the lot, and by right,
As long as the curb cut and existing driveway lead to a legal parking space, which would be the garage, then it can remain regardless of whether there is also access through the alley or not. But in order to be by right, it would have to lead all the way to that garage.
I gotcha. So the only thing that they're really asking for here is to have more green space in the back.
That is correct.
Okay.
What kind of assurances can we get that there won't be constant parking in the front and that there won't be obstruction of the pedestrian walkway?
Well, I can say that almost all of my 4 children are gone. That's probably a huge assurance that we will have, one less car that we'll be dealing with, and we will not have any more teenage drivers. I'm not sure what, happened, I think occasionally maybe there wasn't parking on the street. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie.
A Northwestern game.
No.
What's that?
Ms. McCauley,
Northwestern
they're
game.
not close enough for Northwestern. I think they got busted on a great photograph of someone pulling into the driveway and running into the house. Because as you can see, we're still looking at about a 50-foot driveway. I'm looking at the Plata survey now that can still handle 2 cars parked comfortably there. Plus they're planning on parking into the rear. They've never had ability to get into their existing garage because it's a tear down situation. So the new garage will offer rear parking.
Right.
So the front, I can't speak for the Leidens how they pull into their driveway on a daily basis, but our main goal is for the mother to be able to move in and park in the driveway, obviously with another car available, and to get access to this house at a easy handicap status. And that's also part of our request, which I understand has nothing to do with the zoning rules, but we'd love to have 150 feet of green space in the back of this yard versus a driveway.
Okay, Carol had
I
a
have
comment.
question, and it
Please.
is more a question to staff. The adjacent property, they will continue to have this driveway, and there is no other way to access this property but through this curb cut. Is that correct?
The adjacent property to the west is
I'm asking staff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
sir.
That is correct. There's no alley access for the property to the west.
So in any case, their curb cut and their driveway will remain.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I had one other question, Melissa. One of the members of DAPR has suggested that perhaps we qualify this with a termination of the special use upon the sale of the property, which seems to me awkward, and those things never work out anyway. But that was in the packet, right?
It's an option. I am aware of at least one time that was done, probably 15 or 20 years ago, and I don't know what property it was because we had no way to flag it.
Because no one ever remembers.
So I would say that if you do want to go that route, that you require that to be recorded against the property so that it pops up during the sale and is known then.
Okay.
I have a question for staff. Can you just clarify how our decision tonight connects with the decision to grant the permit for the building of the garage?
Well, if granted tonight, then they could go ahead with the permit that shows keeping that front driveway and curb cut. If denied, they would need to revise that out of it.
But either way,
Either way, they could build a garage.
Either way, they're going to go ahead and build the alley garage. I still have a bad feeling about this, and I think the packet that staff wrote up, I think articulates it well, which is simply that these curb cuts are legally non-conforming for very good reasons, for the public interest. It doesn't, and I understand it's a special situation, and I'm wondering if maybe there's one idea that hasn't been maybe thought of. I saw in the packet that the concept of a pull-through garage was talked about at one point. What does the owner think about creating the garage with alley access as a pull-through so they could still come up to the side of the garage, up through the side of the house, but all in the back? Then you'd still have your access for your mother right up to the house, and then the whole front of the house could be green.
Yeah.
That would be a design concept. I have to talk with the Lydens and so forth. So I'm sorry, just to understand, you would rather have the driveway come almost to an attached garage or close enough garage and only come in from the rear?
You could build your garage on the alley.
Yep.
It would be a pull-through type. So you would
Okay, I
enter
got
from the alley and then continue through if desired, so that you could still drive right up to the house to give your mother access. But that way, the negative curb cut, which I think I imagine other members on this board are feeling, is the problem here, right? Because it's articulated very well that it's legally non-conforming. It degrades a cohesive and articulated landscape, sustains significant conflict points with pedestrians and vehicles, and preserves an inequitable use of public property to accommodate the storage of vehicles and vehicular access when alley access is viable. So I think that is a very articulate summary of why the curb cut is undesired. So I'm trying to think of a solution that still satisfies what the owner wants with the access for the mother, still doesn't have a massive sidewalk, massive driveway going the entire length of the property.
Mhm.
And also can get rid of the curb cut.
Well, I guess I'm going to respond to that, I guess, by saying that, so then I would be required to redo the whole curb cut then, probably for my neighbors, correct? Because I
You
mean,
have to restore, yes, Vicki, you have to restore all of Colfax.
what?
You would have to restore all of Colfax and making the line Weber's curb cut conforming to just their property.
Just their property, and then take out my current driveway and then build a whole nother driveway, right?
That is correct. That's what I think Mr. Buchel
Yeah,
is saying.
I just want to make sure. So, okay.
I have a problem. Am I on?
Yes,
I have a
you're
problem
on.
with.
You are.
I kind of have a problem with that. I mean, I feel, Max, as though, now you have, the twin curb cuts and driveways, they're almost like they're matching to the houses. And again, I don't know, did you say they were put in 3 years ago, Vicki,
Yeah.
Ms. Leiden?
We did.
So I guess it
so close together, and so
So
yeah.
it hasn't been that long that they've been in, so that is a valid issue for why they can be removed. On the other hand, it almost seems artificial because there will have to be a splaying of the curb cut for the family next door to access their garage. And then, an abrupt cut where the lawn comes back in. But then this long driveway for what is a pretty long lot. I'm just not sure that just, I don't know, what do other board members think about that? I just, to me, it seems a little tortured.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mary.
Go ahead, Rhonda.
I mean, Max, I consider what you're proposing to them, but at the same time, now you're creating, you're going to be shuffling a lot of cars back and forth for you to be able to get one car through that pass-through garage. And now, somebody else is in the garage, somebody else has to move in order to get the cars through. That just caused another headache. And
that's what they currently have.
I'm sorry?
The headache you're describing is what they currently have with a single lane
Yes,
driveway.
but once they move the garage to the back, then it's basically a secondary parking area or pull-up area so you can drop somebody else off. It's not going all the way back to the garage. It is stopping just so you can drop off somebody. And now you're gaining back the green space at that point. So maybe I'm not understanding what's going on. And then also, the neighbor is not taking out his driveway either. So now you're compounding other issues to go with that, basically with the other option that you would be suggesting. I don't know, I think we're complicating it versus what's being proposed right now.
Carol?
Well,
I'd love to have your input on this because.
Are we in the discussion phase?
Yes,
or
we are. Yes, I'm going to close the record because I don't see anybody else that's wants to respond to this and we're going to have our discussion. Go ahead, Carol.
Thank you. So I will start with that. This is a really complicated thing, really. And if it were a single driveway, legally non-conforming, I would be against it. But now we have this adjacent property that will have the driveway and the curb cut forever, just because there is no other way to access this property. So instead of having a double curb cut, we, at our maximum, will have, at the end of the day, a single curb cut, and it will stay forever. And then there are significant burdens for the owners of the property to repair and restore the neighbor's curb cut if they remove theirs. So this is leaning my thinking towards keeping it. I was very inclined to go with the option that in a sale of the property, they will not inherit our permission for the curb cut. But thinking about that and what we had previously, these things are really difficult to enforce. I don't think that we can do that, and I don't think that it will be efficient. So although I am once again against these unnecessary curb cuts and inherited curb cuts, and I know this street very well, they have plenty of these things, but it's better to get rid of them because it's a very nice street with very nice properties. These curb cuts are a burden, but in this case, and I believe we are not creating a precedent, we can allow it. So I will vote to stay.
I too believe that the overwhelming differential here is the twin curb cut next door. So if that is going to stay, and we are going to require, because it is the least deviation, that they remove theirs in order to put a driveway all the way from the back of the garage forward, or by contrast from the existing curb cut, which they can still do, all the way back to the driveway, or to the garage in the back of the property, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. It seems to me as though the best thing to do for the property owner and for what we're able to do is to say, bring more green space into this property, let them keep the curb cut, let them keep the drop-off spot in the front of the house, restore a lot of green space in the back of the property, and let the project proceed as it is. It's just artificial to remove half of the double curb cut. And I think it imposes an undue burden on the property owner.
And I promise I won't let anybody park.
I also agree with you, Mary. I feel like just looking at this from another way really complicates the issue. And if you can't change the house next door, the driveway of the house next door, I'm not sure what we're doing here. You're right, we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot. Myrna, do you have any comment on this? None? It's a toughie. Okay.
Can city staff maybe comment on maybe the implications to precedent about going into the future based on what we decide tonight?
Can we limit this special use to just this ownership? Would it be difficult to make it not extend to the next owner? I'm not sure.
Well, as Melissa had pointed out, we would have to require that there be essentially a lien on the title. That's really the only way that you can enforce these. And I think that that's onerous. I don't think that that's, and then who is going to, these are so hard to enforce. So at a certain point, if the neighbor next door decides that they want to change their property and this issue comes up again, then this may be revisited. And there, you know, one may say that was a special use that was allowed in order because of the property next door. But I just don't really see. Yeah, I don't see that that's a logical enforceable requirement to put on this property title.
Yeah, what I meant was, are there any negative implications to precedent for people pursuing this variance in the future, or is that risk pretty low?
Melissa, would you like to speak to that? Have you noticed that?
I mean, tricky thing with precedent, you could say that yes, this could set a precedent for always approving front yard parking, or you could say that every detail makes every case different. The fact that there's a double driveway here, or that the driveway could run the entire length of the property and still comply with impervious, any little details like that make a difference to each case in itself. So it's kind of up to each individual board member to decide if this would set a precedent or not.
Okay. Well, the one thing we have not done in this case is open up for comment of neighbors, and I see several neighbors here that did not comment on the last case. I'm going to assume that they're here for 2909 Colfax. So I'm going to allow for a public comment. Anyone who would like to speak, please speak and give me your name and address for the record. Anyone? Are there any neighbors who'd like to speak to 2909 Colfax? No? Nobody else? All right. And we shall move on. Personally, I think that no matter what we do in this case, that we are going to either come up with a really inefficient cost for this change, or we're going to make it's not going to really make a difference. So I'm not sure what to do about this proposal. And as I look through the variance standards, I'll make my mind up. Anybody else on the board want to talk about support or against this project?
I would just like to say that it's this really seems like a catch-22. You know, they can keep the curb cut, they can keep the driveway, as long as the driveway goes all the way back to their garage. So again, what they are here to ask of us is to be able to not extend the driveway all the way back to the exterior garage and to keep green space, which is something we're always looking for. Yeah. So although this might not be, I don't really see how this is not the least deviation possible. To let them put their garage in the back, which they're allowed to do, and simply not have the driveway extend all the way back there, but simply have the driveway used as a drop-off point for their aging in place mother. That's my feeling of it.
Okay. Max, Carol, Myrna.
I don't have any other comments. I think I expressed my opinion.
Thank you, Carol.
Of course, I will add that currently their driveway goes a little bit further in the backyard, and as Mafi mentioned, it's good. Keep the curb cut, keep this driveway up to the side entrance, and don't go further.
Thank you.
I agree. I'm in favor for what they were actually asking for, which is more green space.
More green space. Max?
I don't like any of this. I think I'm probably gonna vote in favor, just because it's the practical thing to do. I wish the permitting process had not been split in two, because it's just kind of forcing us into a solution we don't like, but I'm willing to do the practical thing.
Okay. So with that, I am going to move on to the variance standards. We are the determining body for this, and I will go through them slowly. If anyone disagrees with the staff recommendation, please let me know. Although DAPR offers no recommendation, the response to the standards below constitute the professional opinion of the planning and zoning staff. Determinations whether the standards for major variation have been met shall be exclusively afforded to the members of this board. For the ZBA to recommend approval of a variance, the ZBA must find that the proposed variance A will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, and property values of the adjoining properties. Staff believes that this standard has been met. Staff has not received any objectives from the neighbors' property owners. Moreover, the legally non-conforming driveway is existing, and it predates current ownership of this property. B, is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff believes that this standard has not been met. The proposed retention of the driveway for open off-street parking conflicts with the comprehensive general plan and the zoning ordinance desire to access enclosed and unenclosed parking from the alley to promote the health and well-being of Evanston citizenry. C, has a hardship.
I'm sorry.
Go
Were you
ahead,
finished?
Tom. I was finished with that one.
Okay, well, obviously I wanted to disagree with that, to say that I think that the standard has been met because the comprehensive plan also allows for property owners to enhance their properties, improve their properties in a way that does not impact their neighbors. And the comprehensive plan also greatly encourages enhancement of green space, which this plan would provide for. So I think that the standard has been met.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, C, has a hardship or practical difficulty that is peculiar to this property. Staff believes that this standard has not been met. The lot is significantly larger than standard and is served by an alley. The curb cut, the driveway, and the existing front-facing garage are not unique to this property, and compliance is possible.
And I'm going to say that the standard has been met because the adjacent driveway allows that the greatest and best use of the green space on the land, or of the space on the land, would be to not remove half of the driveway, but to keep the curb cut as it currently exists. So I think the standard has been met.
Anyone else? D, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience. The staff believes that this standard has not been met. Compliance and alleviation of the alleged hardship is possible through various other alternatives. The applicant has failed to demonstrate how the use of off-street parking in the front yard creates a point of access significantly safer or more convenient than on-street parking, which is readily available.
Once again, the alternative of running the driveway all the way through to the garage in the back of the property is a lesser alternative to maintaining a drop-off point. And it is something that the owners need for their aging mother to be able to stay in the property with them. So I think that that standard has been met too.
And I agree with you. Okay, anyone else? All right, E is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property or public benefit to the whole will be derived. Staff believes that this standard has been met. The property will continue to be owner occupied and no additional income will result from this proposal. F does not have a hardship or practical difficulty that was created by any person having an interest in the property. Staff believes that this standard has not been met. The applicant's desire to demolish and relocate the existing detached garage and retain the existing driveway as an open off-street parking is a choice. Staff believes that compliant alternatives exist, which can alleviate the alleged hardship as well as eliminate the need for an extended driveway.
I want to chime in just for, so all these standards that are currently in front of us and Madam Chair read, this is one of the cases that you have to balance between the text of the standard and the reality. And I think in this case, we have a reality that a kind of a, yes, staff is right. These things are not met per the letter of the standards. I would agree with that. But in reality, we have a condition that makes much more sense to approve this rather than disapprove and go to the, let's say, standard reading of all our standards. Sorry for the repetition of the word. So I cannot state that the standards are met explicitly, but I think we have to really make the balance between the standard and the reality that we're facing. So without saying, yes, the standard has been met, or no, the standard has not been met, I think that my vote will be to approve this current condition.
Okay, and I'm not finished with the standards. I have one more.
Carol, insofar, just wanted to add, insofar as we have to find that these standards have been met, the standard was that this, will creates a practical hardship. Well, this does create a practical hardship rather than a mere inconvenience. If they have to take out their, half of, when they have the right to keep the driveway there, and they have to remove it and remove the driveway and create this artificial situation between their property and their neighbor's property, that is a practical hardship, not just an inconvenience, when they have the right to keep it there. So I think that standard actually has been met. It really, in fact. This is my opinion.
Okay. The last standard, G, is limited to the minimum change necessary to alleviate the particular hardship or practical difficulty. Staff believes that this standard has not been met. However, compliance is possible through various alternatives. Comment on that standard? Yes, please, Max.
Point of order, but it says that for the ZBA to recommend approval of a variance, the ZBA must find that the proposed variance have met all of these standards. So are we in violation of just that procedure if we feel that some are not met, but we're still approving it?
In order for each individual member to vote for the case, you need to find that all standards are met. It can be, it is met because of this extra thing, but then you should clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
So do you believe that this standard has been met?
Well, so for the minimum change standard,
yes.
I think that standard has been met because the option that we're left with is that they keep the curb cut and they run the driveway all the way back to the garage. They can do that by right. So the fact that they would like to keep the curb cut and the driveway only insofar as it allows for a drop off at the side entrance to their house. I think that that is a minimum change, and I think that that standard has amply been met, in my opinion.
Other board members?
I would agree with Murphy. I think this is the minimum.
Okay,
Yeah, and I also agree. I think this is the minimum we could do.
I think this is the minimum as well. Okay, so I am going to ask someone to make this motion. Anybody on the board?
I was muted. I move that in the case of 2909 Colfax, case 20 ZMJV 0044, that the zoning board of appeals approve the special use and allow the project to go forward, provided that it is completed. I should say, to speak to both Max's and Carol's point, provided that the drive from the curb cut extend no further than the end of the housing unit to allow for drop off in the side or back of the house. And that the rest of the project be completed in accordance with the documents presented to DAPR and the zoning board of appeals.
Can I have a
Second.
second, please? Thank you.
Second.
Okay, Melissa, call the roll.
Chair Cullen,
Deny.
Max Puchtel,
Approve.
Mary McCauley,
Approved.
Mirna Iravallo,
Approve.
Kirill Miranchev.
Approve.
Okay, 4-1, it passes. Melissa, will you let them know what they have to do next?
We will sign off on your permit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your presentation.
Do
Okay,
you have any more business, Melissa, Kate?
We do not.
our next meeting will be November 17th. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I
Anyone?
move we adjourn.
Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
don't think you have to call the roll for that one, Melissa.
Nope.
Right.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, everyone, thanks for coming and have a good night. Stay well.
You too.
All of you too.
Bye-bye.